back and forth with this U.S. District Judge and the administration's use of the Alien Enemies Act. Does the president plan to send new and additional flights of Venezuelan gang members, now designated as foreign terrorists, from the U.S. to El Salvador or elsewhere? Can Americans expect to see those flights sometime soon?
Americans can absolutely expect to see the continuation of the mass deportation campaign that has been successfully led by this president, Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, and also our Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. Since you brought up the judges, I would like to point out that the judges in this country are acting erroneously. We have judges who are acting as partisan activists from the bench. They are trying to dictate policy from the President of the United States. They are trying to clearly slow walk this administration's agenda, and it's unacceptable. As the President said last night, we will continue to comply with these court orders. We will continue to fight these battles in courts, but it's incredibly apparent that there is a concerted effort by the far left to judge shop, to pick judges who are clearly acting as partisan activists from the bench in an attempt to derail this president's agenda. We will not allow that to happen. And not only are they usurping the will of the president and the chief executive of our country, but they are undermining the will of the American public, tens of millions of Americans who duly elected this president to implement the policies that are coming out of this White House.
Let's talk about something pretty entertaining. Donald Trump and his press secretary, Karoline Leavitt. You'd think they'd be a match made in heaven, right? Both with bleach blonde hair, both not exactly known for their intellectual depth, and both have an uncanny ability to stretch the truth. But here's the thing. While lying might be part of Karoline Leavitt's job description, she's terrible at it. She can throw out a lot of falsehoods, sure, but they always seem to fall flat. And oh boy, did she get caught in one recently. This time, it was over Donald Trump's shady immigration plan, and what followed was a classic meltdown. But before we dive into that drama, can I ask you to hit that like button? If you haven't already, subscribing to the channel would really mean a lot to me. Okay, let's get back to the show. Karoline Leavitt's latest performance involved a whole lot of whining. Seriously, it was like a never-ending complaint fest. She kept attacking reporters and, of course, the judges who have dared to stand up to Trump's illegal actions. She even called them activists, just for doing their job and ensuring that Trump follows the law. But here's the kicker. If you want to talk about activist judges, look no further than Florida's Judge Cannon. Trump might even try to elevate her to the Supreme Court later. Now that's what I'd call an activist judge. But none of that stopped Leavitt from pushing her narrative.
Understanding, and that's the truth.
And if I could ask a question about the judge as well. How does a president define a bad judge? Is it just someone who disagrees with him? And is that a dangerous precedent in this case, because this is a temporary ruling from Judge Boasberg that he could ultimately rule in your favor? Is he setting up a standard here for calling for the impeachment of a judge who may ultimately rule on your side?
No, it has nothing to do with disagreeing with the president on policy. It's with disagreeing with the Constitution and the law. And it's trying to usurp the authority of the executive branch of this country. It's having baseless reasoning for these injunctions. And it's a clear effort by these judges to slow roll this president's agenda.
She went on about how these judges are out to get Trump, claiming that they're targeting him because of some deep personal vendetta. No, Karoline, maybe he's getting so many injunctions because he breaks the law constantly. Did you ever think about that? It's not a conspiracy. It's just basic accountability. Joe Biden doesn't wake up every morning thinking, how can I violate the Constitution today? Trump, on the other hand, seems to do that regularly. So, yeah, judges might take issue with that.
Should clear that up.
Well, let me just say something to that effect, Garrett. 67% of all of the injunctions in this century have come against which president? Donald J. Trump. Let me say that again. 60% of the injunctions by partisan activists in the judicial branch have come against President Donald Trump, and 92% of those have been from Democrat-appointed judges. This is a clear, concerted effort by leftists who don't like this president and are trying to impose or slow down his agenda.
Now let's talk about the 67% of injunctions against Trump that Leavitt loves to bring up. You can't trust those numbers coming from her. I mean, did you ever stop to wonder why Trump faces so many legal challenges? Maybe it's because he keeps bending or outright breaking the law. not because of some so-called radical judges. And yet, Leavitt keeps pushing this ridiculous idea that it's all a personal attack on Trump. Newsflash. It's because he's breaking the law.
And this judge, Judge Boasberg, is a Democrat activist. He was appointed by Barack Obama. His wife has donated more than $10,000 to Democrats, and he has consistently shown his disdain for this president and his policies, and it's unacceptable.
Right where I wanted to go about the idea that these people are all foreign terrorists, but Judge Boasberg was originally appointed by George W. Bush and then elevated by Barack Obama. I just feel like I should clear that up.
But here's where Leavitt's skills really shine, or rather, lack thereof. Let's talk about the no tax on tips fiasco. She says Trump is already ending this, but that's not quite what's happening. I get it. Sometimes you misspeak. But Leavitt made a big deal on day one about ditching the binder and going off the cuff. I guess it's easy to wing it when you don't have any facts to back you up. If you're just making things up, who needs a binder, right?
He's committed to passing a big reconciliation package later this year, ending no taxes on tips, taxes on overtime, no taxes on Social Security for our hardworking seniors. And we encourage everybody on Capitol Hill to support that when it comes to the finish line, especially Democrats who clearly need a boost from the American public right now. Their approvals are at an all-time record low.
Now, let's break down the no tax on tips thing. Sure, in theory, this could be a good move for folks in the service industry, but in reality, it's just a loophole for the rich to avoid paying taxes. CEOs and Wall Street elites are going to have a field day with this one, hiding their massive paychecks as tips and overtime to dodge their fair share of taxes. It's just another gift to the wealthy with zero limits in place. Meanwhile, Vice President Kamala Harris has proposed capping the benefit at $80,000 to make sure it doesn't turn into a free pass for the richest among us. But don't worry, Trump's version doesn't have any such cap. Shocker. This is exactly what Bernie Sanders has been calling out. And he's right. Every move Trump makes, from his shady immigration policies to his tax plans, seems to cater to the wealthiest and most corrupt people in this country. But don't worry, Bernie's been delivering the goods, calling out Trump's entire agenda and doing a fantastic job of it.
Look, you know, the guys who wrote the Constitution back in the 1790s were nobody's fools. What they wanted to do is have a separation of powers between the executive, the legislative, and the judiciary so that one person could not assume enormous power. And what you are seeing right now is a president who is authoritarian. He just attacked the media the other day. I think he called CNN illegal because I gather that now and then you criticize him. He is trying to encroach on the constitutional responsibilities and spending powers of Congress, and now he's going after the courts. Look, if somebody is a corrupt judge, that person can and should be impeached, but not because you voice an opinion. That's why these guys have life terms, so they are immune from these types of attack, and they can be objective in their judgment. And just a word here. In the last number of years, and I'm not a great fan of Chief Justice Roberts, you have had decisions from the Supreme Court on Citizens United, which allow billionaires to buy elections, one of the worst decisions in the history of the Supreme Court. You didn't see a whole lot of people saying impeach Roberts and members of the court. You had this horrible decision on Roe versus Wade, taking away women's rights to control their own bodies. Again, we live in a society of rule of law. Supreme Court has its power. Judges have their power. And it should frighten every American, whether you're conservative or progressive, that you have a president who does not respect our Constitution and wants more and more power for himself. Very dangerous.
What does it say that the Chief Justice, who, that's a great point, you have also criticized decisions that the Supreme Court has made with John Roberts as the Chief Justice, but what does it say that he felt the need to come out and issue this rebuke of Trump tonight?
Well, I don't know Roberts all that well. I'm not a great fan of his court, but I think he does understand, I suspect, the danger of a president who does not respect the Constitution of the United States and wants more and more power for himself.
It would take 67 senators to remove a judge from the federal bench. That would mean that every Republican would have to vote for it, and I believe 14
No,
14
don't
Democrats.
Have to go into it. It's not going to happen.
Okay,
period. We don't have to, but what we have to worry about is this movement toward authoritarianism. Trump admires and loves people. He thinks they're great. They're beautiful people when they agree with him. But if you criticize them, you're acting illegally, you should be impeached, you're terrible, etc. You're a left-wing fanatic, whatever he calls people. A very dangerous trend. Look, I don't have to tell anybody that we are living in difficult times. And it's not only this movement toward authoritarianism, it's this movement toward oligarchy, where you have a number of billionaires running the United States government, where you're seeing right now with Musk and others massive attacks against veterans and the Veterans Administration. They want to lay off some 80,000 people in the VA who provide health care to our veterans, who make sure they get the benefits that they deserve. You're now seeing a massive attack on Social Security. Presumably they want people with disabilities to now walk in to some Social Security office, although they're cutting back on these Social Security offices all over this country. And at the end of the day, Caitlin, in my view, you got a bunch of these oligarchs who want to destroy virtually every program in America that works for working class people, so that you have massive tax breaks to the 1% and the billionaire class.
Yeah.
And as you may know, I'll be on the road with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez the next few days, trying to fight back against this horrific set of activities.
Yeah, you've been on this anti-oligarchy tour. You've been making stops. I mean, it's really, notable to see the crowds and how many people are showing up. We're showing one of the pictures of you speaking here, and you've been going to all over, I know, to Colorado, to Wisconsin, all over the country. I know you have a lot more stops planned next week. What you just said about Elon Musk and what Trump are doing now that he's back in power, it's safe to say there's a lot of despair in the country over what Democrats are doing, how they're responding to this. You're an independent, but you caucus with the Democrats.
Speaking of Bernie, I'm excited to cover his upcoming rallies with AOC. They're about to go full throttle, and if you want to stay updated, make sure to hit that subscribe button and leave a like on this video. And hey, if you stuck around to the end, drop me a comment below. I love hearing your thoughts. That's all for now. See you next time.